Begin with our panel. So we're going to have everyone introduce themselves, and we already have some pre-planned questions that I'm going to ask the panelists. And I just want to ask everyone to please save your additional questions until we're finished with these questions, in case we are going to answer them anyway, just to save time. Okay. So first, so again, my name is Davis. I'm going to be moderating this panel. And I just want to ask everyone to reintroduce your name, your year, and your major, so that everyone gets a refresher.
Yeah, so I'm Daniel. I'm a senior majoring in computer science.
I'm Bernardo, majoring in philosophy. I'm a sophomore.
I'm Amanda. I'm a freshman. I'm undeclared.
Keanu, I'm a junior, chemical engineering.
Emily, senior, human biology.
I'm Ronald. I'm a freshman, undeclared.
So after I go through these questions, like I said, y'all will have time to ask any questions that you did not get an answer to. And then after this panel, we'll also have another session for even more questions to be answered. So don't worry if your questions aren't answered. They will be answered at some point. Okay, cool. So the first question, how did you and your family approach the college application process? And what advice do you have for applicants?
So for me, I have two older brothers, so they helped guide me throughout the entire process. But if I didn't have two older brothers that told me oh, you should start working and getting involved in clubs as a sophomore or freshman, and start taking these classes, try taking APs if I could handle them, things like that, it would have been a lot more difficult. But yeah.
I guess I'll also answer. I was the first one in my family to go to college, so I didn't have older siblings. I guess my advice would be to just do a lot of research, talk to your counselors. My parents didn't really know much about the college process, so I had to find other resources. I don't know how close you guys are with your high school counselor, but talk to your high school counselor about college apps, financial aid, etc.
Yeah. In most cases, your counselor will actually be writing your recommendation to go to college, so it's important to get closer, just with information as well. I also had an older brother who went to college, but he was not extremely helpful with me in this process. So I guess I've already kind of talked about this a lot, but GPA and SAT scores, I promise you, are not the most important part of your application. And I feel like a lot of people view this process as being a checklist, as in I have to be in this club, I have to do this sport, I have to be the president of this club, and that's really not true. If you do what you're passionate about and you write about it, and it shows, then I think that will be more impressive than having to do a bunch of extracurriculars that you're shallowly involved in. And I would say definitely write about what makes you unique, what you'll bring to campus. Certainly coming from a Cambodian American background, you're already very unique in the United States.
My advice, as far as just the general logistics of the college application process, would be to take the SAT and ACT twice, just once, and then if you want a better score, take it again. But I would say take it sophomore year, don't wait on it, because that's the one thing you can't just do it. You have to take it before, that way you get the score, then you can send it to the colleges. And then also talk to your counselor about fee waivers for those things. For me personally, I didn't pay a dime for any ACT or SAT tests. I didn't pay for the scores we sent out. I didn't pay for any application fee, and that can be expensive if you don't pursue those options. So definitely look into those things.
So how did you learn about the colleges you applied to? What factors were important in deciding the college you chose to attend?
So I certainly talked to my counselor a lot about colleges that she thought would be a good fit for me, and because we were so close, she knew my personality as well. So I know a lot of people think solely about prestige when they apply to college, but I promise if you find a college that's a good fit for your personality, what you're passionate about, and you'll find that you'll have a much better 4-year experience. And of course, cost. But FAFSA, if you fill that out, you will get a certain amount of financial aid. That varies by college.
For me, it was most important for my mom at least, that it was really, really close to home. she was like, don't leave me. And I was like, oh. Also, I made sure to like Google every single college that I applied for and like kind of think like would I sort of see myself here even if I didn't tour the school, which I only actually toured one of the schools I applied for, even though I applied for 12. I also made sure like to when I was like forming the list of colleges I wanted to apply for, to make sure that I had 2 where I was like, yeah, I think I'm probably gonna get it, and then I had maybe like 3 or 4 where I was like, yeah, maybe it would be nice if I got it, and then I had like Stanford and like 2 other schools like Harvard where I was like, I'm not gonna get it, and then come March, like you get like you have to like, even if you know like the probability is kind of slim, like kind of like take it, because like it kind of doesn't really hurt in the long run.
Yeah, what we're talking about is most people when they're applying, they have some safe schools,
Yeah.
they have your realistic schools, and then you have some like reach or dream schools.
Yeah.
So like for me, I had about 2 like safe schools, and that's basically like the way you can kind of put schools into categories is really just like off your like GPA and test scores. But I had about 2 of those, and I had about 4 like realistic schools, and then like Stanford and Princeton were like my like reach schools. And the thing is like, you have to realize you're only gonna get this chance to apply to schools like one time in your life. So like you don't want to like be like, oh, I should apply to this school, you know, like you'll never know if you don't apply.
Yeah, I would just like to say that for all of us, Stanford was our reach school.
Yeah.
But none of us probably were like, oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna get it. I promise that all of us looked at that 5% and we're like, we're never gonna get in. But then it happened. So I encourage you to all apply, even if you really don't think you'll get in. I definitely did not. Yeah, and I think touring to school is important too, just to know what the feel of the campus is.
Yeah, the other thing I'd add is I think some people try to predict what their 4 years are going to be like, and there's a lot of uncertainty and lock and change in those 4 years. So I would just accept that and say, like, you know, I could probably be happy at a lot of different places, and there's no way to say, like, this is who I'm going to be in the next year, and this college is a perfect fit for me. So I don't know if that's necessarily something that's attainable.
I think wherever you go, you'll end up loving it.
Did you face any familial pressures into going into higher education, especially coming from a Cambodian American family?
I feel like both of my parents were like, go to school. Like, there wasn't any other option. They weren't like, oh yeah, you can like graduate high school and get a job. Like, I never like considered it, because both of my parents were just pushing me so fiercely toward higher education, which I actually didn't mind, because like, I was like, I probably want to do this. So it worked out.
Yeah, my parents were pretty much the same way. Like, I never not considered going to college. And also we found out, well, through statistics, it's like under 50% of Cambodian Americans don't pursue higher education. So yeah, that's a pretty large number. So being a part of the group that does, like, feels good too.
And colleges definitely like look at that. They want to like increase the number of like underrepresented ethnicities in their college.
So I know a lot of people say that Asians have like a harder chance getting into college, but the truth is that Asians have very many subgroups, and so I would say that Cambodians are not in the same group as, say, Chinese people.
So, can you describe any difficulties you faced of transitioning from high school to college?
Well, you're living by yourself. Like you can't like go to the kitchen and like expect there to be food in the fridge like for you. So like that's definitely a change. Also, like you have to really be much more responsible when it comes to studying. In that college is just much harder, I think. But like it ends up being worth it. And once you, I guess, adjust, become used to everything that college is compared to high school, then like you become happy where you are.
Yeah, and one other difference is that you live with your friends, like the people in your dorms that you get to know, and like you also need to study and do work, like what you went there for. So that's hard doing the work-life balance. But,
Yeah, you have to like say no. Like if people like walk by your door and they're like, "Hey, you want to hang out?" It's like down by the hall. Like you have to say no. Like study.
That's not to say that you can't go out once in a while and hang out with
Yeah.
friends, but it's definitely motivation.
Yeah.
So, could you describe your experience specifically as a Cambodian American at Stanford, or just in higher education in general?
I think one thing that I've noticed is because of a lot of shared parents who come from like really difficult backgrounds, we view education as much more important than maybe some of our peers. And like so, I think like just knowing how much my parents like sacrificed, it's like harder for me to take college as likely as some of my other friends do. So I think that was like something I had to get used to. But at the same time, like your parents, it's also your life, and you're not living for your parents' happiness. Like you got to make something of your own. So just like sort of negotiating that was something that I think is pretty unique to Cambodian American.
Yeah, my parents personally, like, they made sure that they tried their hardest to like make me fully concentrate on education and like extracurriculars and stuff during high school. So like, I made sure to do that because they would like work all the time or like make my life easier in whatever ways they could, so I could concentrate on what they wanted me to concentrate on and what I wanted to concentrate on.
So more like now transitioning towards like maybe back in high school. So did you take any like honors, AP, IB classes in high school, and what do you think about them in like the college application process?
I took APs in high school, and I think some colleges won't accept them, but some do, and they're definitely, like, if finances are an issue, they're really useful for, like, if you take a ton of APs, you can graduate classes earlier because they can accept the units. Also, it's very good practice, I think, because the level of difficulty is maybe, like, a step towards college level, so it's definitely prepares you for the college experience.
So even if your school doesn't like offer these classes, honors, AP, IB classes, I promise you it won't affect you like negatively during the process as long as you demonstrate to the admissions officers that you're challenging yourself in high school and you're taking the most difficult classes you could with like that are offered to you.
Yeah, and just a note about that. Personally, I took a lot honors and AP classes, but you want to make sure that you're not overloading yourself with like too many AP classes that you can't handle, because then it'll be like a rough time in high school. I know personally people that have done that, and then it was pretty difficult, but then they started to understand where they were and like switched up their classes and things. But yeah, it's nice to like try out like honors and APs maybe like sophomore, junior year, or depending on where you are academically, and then figure out from there if you want to continue doing that and like, yeah.
So, were you involved in any extracurricular activities during high school? What do you recommend in regards to extracurriculars?
So again, I'm going to repeat that you should review extracurriculars as being marks off a checklist. I was very interested in sports in high school, so I did 3 varsity sports, and that was kind of my activity.
Yeah, in high school I did football, did track and field, and I was also very involved with robotics club. I didn't get involved in that until junior and senior in high school, so don't feel like if you haven't started freshman year, it's too late. What else? I did some community service at my church, just like an hour a week, but it's still, you know, I like doing it, and just one of those things that colleges see is like you're trying to build up your community, so it's a positive thing. A lot of people, you know, play instruments in high school. I didn't play an instrument, so don't feel like that's like one of the things you need to do. Really just, again, like if you're passionate about something, just do that, and it will show in your application. And you don't necessarily have to write about it, because I didn't write about playing sports in any of my essays, but I did, you know, lists. I, you know, it was like 15 hours a week of, football. So they see that and they're like, okay, he couldn't really do other things because he was spending so much time with sports, and they'll see that. Yeah.
I definitely say that it's probably more valuable to spend more time on one activity than spending like a couple hours on many activities throughout the week. So that's true. Like, it shows dedication, shows commitment, and it definitely shows passion, which is what's very important to colleges.
Yeah, for me, I wanted to do basketball, but then I had to drop that because of time commitments and like it was harder financially to pay for that and like for transportation for my parents. But I did extracurricular clubs, so like I did Red Cross and Rotary Interact and some other things. But yeah, I started as a sophomore, which helped me when I continued pursuing that because I found out that I was passionate about that. So I got a board position junior year, and then I ended up leading the club senior year. But it's nice if you guys are interested in something to try it out. Like, be kind of involved freshman or sophomore year if you can, or if not, junior year is fine too. Or but yeah, if you are interested in eventually leading it, then it's nicer if you start earlier because then the board members at the time will understand that you are committed to this.
I would say definitely do things that you like, because if you don't like it, then it's like, oh, well, why am I doing this? But also, like, I feel like colleges look for people who are like, as Amanda said, like, you don't have to be doing like 500,000 things. As long as you do like maybe 2 or 3, maybe like even one like really well, then like it sort of shows that you'll be involved in the community and you'll contribute to the school's atmosphere. So that way, like, if they accept you, it's like, oh, there's more activity at the school now because of what you are doing there. And if like your school doesn't have the club that you like sort of want, there's always the option of like starting a club even. Like, you can just like talk to a teacher. Like, one of my friends started a climbing club at my high school. He was just like, I like climbing, and he approached my English teacher because she really liked Mount Everest, which like was the biggest stretch ever. But like, she said yes, and they started a climbing club. So like, it's pretty it's not as inaccessible as you think. Like, you can do it.
Yeah, don't be afraid to go outside your school even, find opportunities in your community, even find opportunities that you might have to like travel outside of your community to go to as well. Certainly if it is summer, you can take advantage of summers to go abroad, to go to various parts of the country, to take internships, that sort of thing.
Yeah, even like a place like this, if you say helped out like here at Wat, then you could write about that in your application or things like that.
Yeah, the last thing I'd add is extracurriculars don't necessarily have to be like mean school clubs. Like, some of my friends had to work in high school, and if you have to work, that's something college definitely look and understand. Yeah, I had to spend 10 hours a week working. Yeah, that's important to include.
So, what's something you wish you knew in high school?
Lots of things.
I don't know, I guess just summing up the theme that I guess we've been kind of pushing, like, be active, talk to people. Like, I guess Amanda mentioned recommendation letters earlier. Like, if there's a subject you like, talk to the teacher, get to know them, participate.
Yeah, so definitely be proactive, I would say. So I did multiple internships for this summer doing research, and for that I literally just emailed maybe dozens of professors and researchers asking if I could have a position. And most of them will ignore you, but if yes, they totally do. But if one of them or two of them look at it and are interested and respond, then you're good. So yeah, be proactive. Don't be afraid to be ignored or rejected.
Can I ask questions about that?
Oh, sure.
Where do you live? Who do you contact, like people
I
from
live in
universities?
Virginia, so there's a lot of naval research academies, and then there's hospitals that do research. Then there's just like Georgetown professors, that sort of thing. So, yeah.
And do they accommodate you, like if it's not nearby, or
What?
if it's
Like relocation.
yeah, if your house is
I mean, I didn't really they're all within reasonable I love these sort of social reasonable. But yeah, otherwise I probably found that.
Something that I wish I knew was how different the application process for college was for each college. Like, say you were applying for like a CSU versus a UC versus a private school. Like, they're all pretty different. Like, there's a UC application process. There's like each private school is different, and each one like accepts different things. So like, say USC maybe accepts like SAT, while other schools accept SAT or ACT, and like. A lot of the private schools have different essays and supplement essays, so you have to be proactive and like go out of your way to find out what each school accepts, and like say some accept APs, like I don't know, it's very different. So it's better to look at it earlier, because I ended up starting it that summer, but like not committing that much time until like later on, and then like yeah, it was a stressful process at the end.
Yeah, definitely look up dates. For example, Stanford has an early, I know a lot of schools actually, but I'm more familiar with the Stanford process. There's an early application, which some say has like a higher percentage rate of getting in. UCs and CSUs have an early application, or an earlier application due date than the other colleges, especially the private ones, which I think are due in January. So yeah.
Yeah, so there's a difference between early action and early decision. I would say most early actions you have an equal chance of getting in, whether you apply early or regular. It's just really a matter of like when you get your decision. Early decision, for the most part, you actually get like a huge advantage for applying early decision, and that means that you are committed to that school. You cannot apply to any other schools. But the good thing about that is, of course, the higher chance of getting in, but also you get to be like stress-free if you get in before everybody else. I personally did not apply anywhere early, and it was a terrible decision because I was completely stressed out for my whole entire senior year, and you do not want to be me when it comes to that.
I would say for that case as well, like make sure to do your research, because in some cases the early action like application is actually a worse rate than the regular decision. Like I think this past year it was worse.
Yeah.
So like if you applied early action to Stanford, then like you actually had a worse chance of getting in than if you applied regular decision, because of how many people apply.
Yeah,
early
it's
decision.
just skewing it now. So.
Yeah, I think in general, Stanford usually promises that the decision that you get early versus the decision that you get regular is usually the same.
So, were finances a big issue when you decided what college to go to, and how did you go about that? And just any more advice you want to give related to finances and going to college?
Finances for me was quite a big issue, but I knew because I had two older brothers. The first one that applied, he went to a public school and he didn't get as much financial aid. But and my older brother, the other one, he applied, but like in the application, he mentioned that he had an older brother that our parents was also paying for. Then he got a lot of financial aid, and then I mentioned that I had two older brothers, so I got a lot of financial aid. So that definitely helped. It was hardest on my oldest brother, but yeah. So when I was applying, I made sure to apply to some public schools, like UCs and things like that, and then private schools. The public schools generally, especially because California doesn't have that much money, they don't give as much financial aid, but they are cheaper overall. But the private schools, they give a lot more financial aid, but like it's depending on the private school. So like Stanford has a lot of money, so then they gave a lot of financial aid, but like USC and things like that. But yeah, it's different. I made sure to apply to both.
So also I would recommend applying to scholarships. You don't have to go for the huge big ticket like $30,000 scholarships. Even if you do like multiple, like maybe like $1,000 scholarships, maybe even less, it adds up and it can really help with tuition costs along with financial aid. So.
There's a story about someone who started his freshman year just applying to all these like $1,000 scholarships, and it ended up paying his whole tuition.
Yeah.
It's pretty wet.
Okay. That may be a little bit more.
Unverified,
All your time. Like these things.
Yeah, just like Kiana said, look into those fee waivers for applications, and then you can apply to a lot of different schools. And even if you don't end up not being able to pay for a certain school, you can leverage offers you get in terms of scholarships against each other. So you can say like, I applied to this school, they gave me this much money, you're giving me less money. And then the schools will often readjust the amount of money they give you based on any other financial aid packages you get from other schools.
And something that I want to mention, there's this program that I used to apply early. It was called QuestBridge, and it was very useful in my application process. So I it's catered towards high achieving, low income students in high school. So I applied through that, and then later I became a finalist. Like in their process, if you win the QuestBridge college batch pro application thing, then you would get matched with a college, and then you would get a full ride for 4 years, guaranteed. But I didn't go through with that part, but I became a finalist, and I was able to put down on my resume that I was a QuestBridge finalist, which indicated that I was a high-achieving, low-income student in high school. So that, I feel like that was like my biggest thing in my college application, because I was able to say that. And that's why I mentioned before, like, even if you don't get something like that, you could mention like difficulties in your life that you overcame in your essays. So like that wasn't in my essay, but like I was able to put it in a different place that like was like a hook. I think that's what they call it for applications.
So that QuestBridge scholarship Dan's talking about, I actually received that full ride to Stanford. That's the program I went through. So if you have any questions about QuestBridge, you can come up after and talking about it. I'm pretty familiar with it. But as far as finances go, when I was in high school, I'm kind of like a YOLO person. So like I was like, like finances are not going to get in the way for me. Like I'm going to take out whatever loans necessary. I mean, I just have like very small loans still. But I mean, I was fine taking out, like if I had $100,000 of debt, like I'd be fine because, like I wouldn't want to live the rest of my life thinking, I went to this school and not this one because money got in the way, And so it's going to come down to if you're comfortable with that. But like me personally, I wasn't going to let money get in the way. I still don't let money get in the way. So
I definitely say that all of us here would say that the education is worth it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it to like be happy than be sad with like an extra $1,000 in your pocket. So yeah.
So last question. Describe your favorite experience at Stanford so far.
No favorite experience?
Too many.
So to like talk about how so college gives you like all these kinds of opportunities. So I actually like walked onto the varsity rowing team, and I'd never rowed before, and it's been super exciting for me. So college is really a place where you can explore, do anything, take crazy classes. I don't know what the craziest class at Stanford is. I think there's one about like sleep and
There's like,
yeah.
I don't know, wine tasting.
Wine
It's
tasting.
like athletics classes.
Oh,
Stanford's
yeah, you can take like sailing classes. It's
Yeah.
pretty crazy,
like wind sailing or windsurfing. I don't know, just.
Yeah, there used to be a lake. No, it's not.
Well, yeah, one of my favorite memories was, so Stanford is different than a lot of other private schools, or a lot of other schools, but it's very common to go abroad. So like I was lucky enough to be able to go abroad to Madrid, and I had an incredible time. That was the first time I went out of the country, and like I was only taking Spanish classes to like in school, so I like talked sometimes in Spanish, but like I wasn't that good. But like I went there, it was really hard because everyone only talking Spanish. All the classes were in Spanish, and but yeah, I picked it up like after a couple of weeks, and then it was an incredible experience. That's probably gonna be like probably my highlight of my college. So.
Stanford gives you like a lot of resources. I'm applying, so Stanford has many programs and sort of things that you can do over the summer, over spring break, over winter break. So right now I'm in this program where during spring break we'll actually go into San Francisco and learn about HIV and AIDS, which is very cool.
Cool. So that was definitely a lot of information for y'all to take in. There was probably a lot of terms you were unfamiliar with, like early decision, early action, things like that. Feel free to come up to us later and ask us to like clarify, or just go online and look up those things. I think some main takeaways to take from those questions I just asked were to be proactive, start early, be organized. Higher education is for everyone. There's an option for everyone. As long as you're interested, you will find a way to go into higher education. And just be who you are on your college application, and you'll definitely get into the college that fits you. So now we'll open the floor to any additional questions.
One descender part right here, people, come on, ask a question.